Welcome to Aging with Pride, the joys and WTFs about aging queerly. We're your hosts, Wendy and Debbie, and we're serving up a hot cup of wisdom with a splash of humor on the side. Think of us as your guides through the wilderness of aging queerly. So settle in and join us for episodes that prove that the best chapters of your life might just be the ones that you're writing now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to People of the Gayborhood, our Aging with Pride series where we chat with folks so fascinating, so fierce, and so fabulously unique, absolutely would want to live next door to them. My name is Debbie. My pronouns are she, hers.
I'm Wendy, she, hers.
And we are so excited to bring you our guest. If you know Calvin, you're going to be as excited as we are. Calvin Gipson is a 64-year-old Denver native whose early experiences with school integration shaped his commitment to civil rights and social justice. After being forced out as a Church of Christ minister for being gay, Calvin became a queer activist at San Francisco's Glide Memorial Church, directing a meals program that served over 6 million people and inspired the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. He made history as the second Black American to serve as president of San Francisco Pride and was past president of the city's LGBT International Film Festival. Now retired, he continues community work with the Denver Broncos, HIV Planning Council, and various LGBTQ plus organizations. And again, if you live in Denver, Colorado, you've probably seen Calvin at numerous events. And yeah, so welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun. Thank you.
I'm so excited. So I want to start this with a topic about pronouns. And Calvin, when you and I spoke a few weeks ago, we were having a conversation just about the podcast. And I asked you what your pronouns were, because that is how we've been trained in our community to lead with that question. And you gave me an answer that I felt was so important that I admittedly was not aware of, but I think there might be other people that will gain a lot from your insight. So do you mind sharing what you shared with me about that?
Well, thank you so much for asking, Debbie. I am a proud queer man. I have produced a gay pride parade, 5 years of production. So I am very proud. But when I navigate this world, the world sees me as Black. They see me as a Black male. And I was using my pronouns, and it was my sister who thought that was odd, because in the Black community, we do not lead with pronouns. It's a part of our queer culture, but it's not a part of Black culture. So as I navigate this world as a Black man, I decided that I need to represent that as a Black man, I am Calvin Lavan Gipson. And if someone wants to know my pronouns, I'm happy to tell them my pronouns he, him, but I don't lead with that for cultural reasons in the Black community.
That's so helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it just exemplifies that our community is not a monolith. We are all unique individuals. And so what certain individuals choose to do is not necessarily what every individual chooses to do. So thank you for shedding light on why you approach it that way.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
So you said you're a Colorado native. When did you leave and why did you leave? And then talk us through that experience.
Now, I'm the first generation born in Colorado. My roots are Oak Grove, Louisiana, which is a very small town of 2,000 people in Louisiana. My parents, they knew each other growing up. And all of my aunties and uncles, they started moving to Colorado. My dad was in the military. If you're familiar with the Anschutz campus where the University of Colorado Hospital is, that used to be an Army base. And that's where I was born.
Wow.
On that Army base, because my dad was in the Army at that time. So I am a first generation Coloradan, but my roots are Louisiana.
I know that you left Colorado because we just read your bio and you spent a significant amount of time in San Francisco. How did you get, and why did you go from Colorado to California?
Well, it's a very interesting story because I was a music major at CU in Boulder. I studied opera. I was a vocal performer, yes.
Okay.
And I met some Christians there in the Church of Christ, and they convinced me that I was going to hell and that I needed to become a Christian. And over time, they decided to start a ministry team in Berkeley, California. And they asked me to join this team to go convert the sinners in California. They asked me to join the team as the song leader, the music director.
I have a question for you because
Mhm.
you said they tried to convince you that you were going to go to hell. So were you open about your sexuality at that point?
At that time, I was open in the context that they started trying to convert me.
Got it.
So through the conversion process, I did open up to them. And as a matter of fact, before I moved to California, I said, I'm gay. Is that going to be an issue? Because I don't want to move to California. And then it becomes an issue because anybody that's been in the church knows that churches can change their mind at any point of time. So at the time, they needed a music director, and they said, no, it's not an issue that you're gay. So I moved to Berkeley, California with a ministry team, and I directed the music programs for 5 years before they decided that it was a problem with me being gay. The lucky part for me was all of this happened in the Bay Area.
That's
That was
great.
the blessing. So if you're going to go on a ministry team, then definitely I recommend the San Francisco.
Go to San Francisco. I have to tell you a funny story because I went to a Church of Christ college, Abilene Christian University.
Abilene Christian University.
And I was an instrumental music major. And so maybe being gay is okay in the church, but you cannot play your instrument in church. I found out the hard way. I got put on detention the first week I was there.
Wait. So you can sing in church, but you cannot play an instrument in church.
Yeah, it's similar to the Amish, where you have the most beautiful singing of hymns. Everybody can sing in 4-part harmony, and the singing is actually amazing. And being the song director, everybody's singing at me. So I was able to enjoy this this amazing sound. However, we were able to play musical instruments during weddings. The Church of Christ believes that there's no musical instruments in the New Testament, so that God wants us to sing.
Okay, interesting. And you found out you were playing, she's not going to tell you what instrument it was, but she majored in French horn.
I love the French horn.
Epicenter of coolness.
So you're in the Bay Area, 5 years in, they suddenly have an issue with who you authentically are. And what happened then?
Yes, because I was directing the music programs, but I was also serving as a campus minister at Cal State Hayward. And I am ordained. And it was just the combination of me being young on campus with hot men.
That didn't suck for you.
And all of the temptation, that's when they started questioning my behavior. And so one night I was called and the minister said, we need you to do a confession of homosexuality and gross sexual sins before the church. At the time, I had a girlfriend. So right before the church service, and she was a Black woman, and I can say this because I'm Black, she gave me a look that only a Black woman could give you, like, I will kill you. I went because I hurt her so bad. And I went before the congregation, then they whisked me off, and they had an intervention with me.
Oh,
And
wow.
they read the Bible to me. They told me I was going to get AIDS as God's punishment, that I was going to hell, and where do I stand? And after 2 hours, I told them I'm still gay. So what they did was they moved me to San Jose, California, which is 60 miles south of San Francisco, to keep me from the sinners in San Francisco. And that's where I snuck out and went to a gay bathhouse, the Water Gardens bathhouse. And I met an airline pilot and I was telling him what I was going through. And he asked me, would you like to go on a date? And I said, sure, but meet me in the lobby of my building because I live with Christians.
Sure.
And he stood me up and I went to my apartment and he was in my apartment confronting my Christian roommates and he removed me from that situation. It was like a little angel came along and just sort of plucked me out of there.
I would
Stayed with him for 3 days, and then I was on my own after that.
Wow.
And I honestly believe to this day that it was a spiritual intervention.
Yeah.
Where it's like an angel just came along and took me out of that situation.
Yeah. It sounds like it for sure. And interesting that the church, did they think there were not gay people in San Jose?
Well, that was the church is not that informed.
Okay, good.
The church was just thinking San Francisco. Berkeley is too close to San Francisco.
Got it.
So we need to get him away from San Francisco because we do know that there are homosexuals in San Fran.
Yep. So after 3 days, you were kind of on your own. You were, well, certainly you'd been out to yourself, but now you were out to the church and you were like, I'm who I am. How did you kind of weave your way?
So after I left this man's house, who I stayed with for 3 days, I found an apartment, but I didn't know anybody because all of my relationships were in the church. So I decided to go to the Billy DeFrank LGBT Community Center. I think at that time it was just called Gay and Lesbians. We were fashioned during that time.
Yeah,
and I walked in thinking I would meet someone, and there was this one guy wearing short shorts, and he had these beautiful thighs. His name is Robert Greeley, and I decided I'm going to whatever meeting he's going to. And it ended up being that he was the co-chair of South Bay GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance of Defamation. What he told me was, you know what, Calvin, nobody should be treating you that way.
Yeah.
And he started mentoring me to become a civil rights leader. The most interesting parts about it is one of the best training grounds is in the church. You learn how to public speak, you learn how to organize, you learn how to reach out to people. So I just used all of those skills that I learned in the church with South Bay GLAAD.
Did you send the church a thank you letter like once you kind of I really appreciate your service. Thank you.
I do meet a lot of queer people that go through a lot of trauma because of church. And but for me, that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, the church prepared me for this moment. And I would not have the opportunities I have as an empowered queer man if it wasn't for the church.
Sure.
So I have never had any negative feelings towards the church or the Church of Christ or my experience. I was not harmed by that experience in any way.
How old were you when you went to California?
I was 25.
Okay, young.
And I got kicked out of the church when I was 30.
Okay.
You came in with GLAAD, and I mean, what an organization to be your first exposure in the LGBT movement. Did you know before then that, or did you have any inclination that you would become a civil rights activist and become a voice in that movement? Or did it just, here it is, and here's the next chapter?
Well, no, not specifically, but a part of being a Black American is that you always hear these messages of overcoming. And this is how you survive. And this is how you become great. So it's always been in the back of my head from a Black culture point of view that I can handle just about anything that life threw at me. And the cool thing about GLAAD is, guess what we started working on back then was putting same-sex commitment ceremonies on the wedding pages of the San Jose Mercury News. So I literally was at the very start.
That's amazing.
Of the marriage equality movement. I didn't know it at the time. It just worked out that way, but that was our very first victory.
Yeah,
So,
that's fantastic.
When you accidentally become an activist, so, you know, you step into that role just because of a life experience.
And so I decided, because I'm a singer, I decided to join the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. So I moved to San Francisco. I moved back.
You moved back to where all the gays.
I decided it's time to be gay.
Exactly.
And I auditioned for the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. And guess where the audition was?
At the church.
Auditioned in the same church building that I had to give my public confession for. Like I used to direct music here.
That's a
wow
turn of events, right? Like full circle.
It ended up being full circle because the Church of Christ outgrew their building in Berkeley. So they started renting the First Congregational Church in San Francisco, which happens to be the same building that the Gay Men's Chorus rehearsed in.
Wow.
That's
good.
wild. So coming in the Gay Men's Chorus, and from your bio, that developed into a much bigger role.
Yes. I ended up becoming a board member with the Gay Men's Chorus, and I was the bass section leader. And we had 60 bassists because the San Francisco chorus is huge. They have over 300 singers.
Wow.
And I like to say that the bass singers, they made me moist every time we rehearsed because the sound of that many men was amazing. I got to the point where I felt like I needed to do something with my spirituality. I'm ordained and I still believed in God. I did not believe that God was condemning me to hell because he made me this way. So I went to Glide Memorial Church as a congregant because Reverend Cecil Williams was a civil rights activist and one of San Francisco's lead social rights activists for queer people going all the way back to the 60s.
Yeah.
He started same-sex marriages in 1969. And so I decided to apply for a job, and I got hired as his wife's, Janice Maricatani, Cecil's wife, as her executive assistant. So I ended up becoming the executive assistant to Janice Maricatani, who was the poet laureate of San Francisco, and Reverend Cecil Williams. And I worked for them for 11 years. The way I ended up getting the job in the food program was Cecil called me into his office and he says, Calvin, there's a lot of homophobia in our food lines. So I'm putting the biggest queer I know in charge. That's how I started feeding the poor and the homeless. And that's when I got the attention of the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade. That was a period of time when they felt it was important to have a Black leader. I was chosen because of my relationship with Reverend Cecil Williams and Glide. And I went on to lead the Pride Parade as president, where I led four Pride parades. And then the community selected me as Grand Marshal for the 5th parade.
That's awesome.
So my journey is just sort of a little bit of organic, you know.
Well, and leading you
over here, and then I'm going over here, and then I'm going over here. And
but really, when you think about it, I mean, leading you to where you're most needed, right? Like that's sounds like how it was. So that definitely is a spiritual guidance, so to speak.
And it took me back to my start with GLAD, with same-sex commitment ceremonies, because I came onto the Pride Committee when we started bringing on the large corporations that everyone is complaining about right now. But San Francisco Pride at that time, we used our influence to say, if you became a sponsor of San Francisco Pride, you had to offer domestic partner benefits to your employees.
That's great.
And because United Airlines was our airline sponsor, they ended up providing benefits to their employees worldwide, domestic partner benefits, because of San Francisco Pride. Now, I was sensitive to domestic partnerships because of our fight with the newspapers trying to get same-sex commitment ceremonies. And so I was a part of the entire marriage equality fight, even with domestic partnerships during that time.
So let me just completely derail us a little bit, but I am curious because it's post Pride, and you said something that made me think, how do you feel about the level of corporate influences in prides?
I don't like it. I think it's too much. And it really bothers me that Denver Pride allows a corporation to be branded a part of our title. Because In San Francisco, it was a little bit more acceptable because San Francisco is an activist city. So during the years of celebration, like when we first passed marriage equality, the parades were very celebratory. During the AIDS crisis, the parades were very, we need to bring attention to the plight of AIDS. So the parade would get stopped every single year by ACT UP, and they would make their points. When the women decided that they were being marginalized in the Pride Parade, then they would just take over the main stage. They would just stop the whole thing. And we allowed it to happen because that was a part of the culture of Pride. That was a part of the culture of fighting for our civil rights. So the parades from year to year had this ebb and flow to it. So even though we had corporate sponsors did not control our message. If we wanted to protest the corporate sponsors, we would protest the corporate sponsors. But now we've gotten to the point where we've become so mainstream that there's not that activist edge anymore to say that we don't care who's giving us money. We have this issue and that we're going to protest. And I think that's sort of what we're missing today, that we just sort of accept their money and then go down the streets wearing our booty shorts. And I guess now we're carrying the rainbow fans and all of those things. And we just have a good time. And a part of me is like, where is the protest? Where is the activism? Where is the acting up? Because of my age, I'm just of the generation where we did that.
Yeah. Do you think, too, talking about that, like that generation and even our generation, we all lived different experiences being gay, right? We lived in a time where you had to be closeted in some spaces or there was a lot of unsafety. We just walked through the world a little bit differently and prides really were community and focused. And not only with the corporations, I feel like younger generations, they've had different fights and different struggles than we have. Do they know the history?
Yes. One of the things that I think about is because of our successes, that this is the very first generation that has not had to fight for their civil rights. And if you talk to a lot of our young people, they're very disturbed about how trans people are being treated, how gay people are being treated, and they don't realize that it's always been this way. They've always been under attack. They've always have had to fight for our safety. I remember when the Community United Against Violence had a whistle campaign where everyone carried around whistles because of gay violence. And so if you were out in public and you went to the bars or whatever, if somebody was getting beat up, then they would blow their whistles and then everybody else would come to their rescue. Everybody. And I was thinking, I wonder if we need that right now outside of our drag shows, because now we have to deal with safety again. I wonder if we need that right now when it comes to supporting our trans brothers and sisters. Because if somebody's under attack, then we all need to run to their rescue. And so trying to help young people understand that the government has always been against us. There was a period of time because I was raised in Park Hill and I'm a music director, so I learned how to play the piano from our church musician from Central Baptist Church. And one day I went to his house and there was this big billboard in his front yard, and it was an order to appear at a hearing because at that time, 2 unmarried men in Denver, Colorado, this is in the 70s, could not live together.
Wow.
It was against zoning laws. And the neighbors filed a complaint. And my piano teacher had this big, giant, humiliating notice about a public hearing to appear to discuss these code violations. And you know how gay men got around it? One would adopt the other. So now they're no longer, so now they're father and son.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
See, people don't know our
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was in Park Hill.
That is
like
wild.
23rd and 70s.
And I think ultimately the message for me is that we need in our community, we need to have spaces where young people and those of us who are older can all be together and learn from each other, because there's so much that we can learn from young individuals. I mean, we were joking earlier about technology. Yes, that might be one of them. That's the biggest joke. Really just about our community and the energy and their passion and that is really important. And then to hear these stories and this history is it's also necessary, but sometimes we tend to silo ourselves and we miss out on those opportunities to really connect.
Yeah, young people don't realize that there were very heavy, heavy consequences if you were caught being gay during the 70s. You could lose your job. You could lose your apartment. People wouldn't rent to you. And this was just for being gay. We're not even talking about being trans. It was even worse.
Yes.
Even worse discrimination. There were bars where you had to walk through the alley of the bar to the entrance because you didn't want anybody from your church to see you walking into a gay bar.
And now the sad reality is with this administration and so many protections going away, we are seeing things move, right? Where you're not going to be protected at your job. You will eventually, I mean, it is a very real fear that a lot of people have lived through and are starting to see it happen again, where maybe for younger people, this is the first time that they're seeing it. But like what you're saying is, we've always seen it. This is always how it's been. So very interesting, just that perspective on, aging and what that does to us and what we may or may not miss out on.
I have a friend that I went through her entire transition from a man who was in the military and worked for the government and transitioned into a woman, and a very vibrant woman, very beautiful. She was so proud, and she was just an amazing success story because she could live her life, finally live her life as God intended her to be. And guess what? She lost her job. Since Trump has been elected, she lost her job, and she was a government employee. So she lost all of the benefits and all of the history. And it was just so difficult to watch her go from being this vibrant, celebrating to being a broken person because
absolutely. And for many people who work, I know people who work in the military, it's such a big part of their identity and they love it. They choose the profession because they love the profession. And to lose your job for so many people is losing a part of your identity. Not only that, but your financial safety and security, your health benefits, like you said. It's so big. There's so much going on that a lot of people miss that, how totally devastating it is for individuals and families, entire family and communities.
Yes, and as difficult as it is, it won't be as difficult for this generation to fight for their rights as it was for us. We were the ones that were breaking the groundwork for our successes today. So at least they're not starting from the very beginning.
Sure.
Those of us who've been around for a while, we know that the pendulum swings one direction and then it swings the other direction towards our freedom. And I think that freedom was marriage equality and the election of Barack Obama. And then we knew, those of us who are older, been around, knew that, we've gone too far. It's going to swing back. And
here we are.
Exactly what has happened.
And here we are. Exactly. It is. So you were in California, but obviously we're talking to you, you're in Colorado. You came back, you made your way back. What drew you back to Colorado?
Well, my dad had an aneurysm, and my sister called me and she says, I need you to come home and help me take care of Dad. So I made the decision to leave San Francisco. And you know what's really cool is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, at that time, he was the mayor of San Francisco, and they proclaimed Lavan Gipson Day in 2007 when I left San Francisco.
That's amazing.
They proclaimed Lavan Gipson Day in San Francisco. So he has to become president so my honor will have more value.
Okay.
Right?
That means
I came home, and then, believe it or not, it was like coming out of the closet again. Even though my family knew I was gay, they didn't know anything about my history. They had no clue what I was doing in San Francisco. This was before social media and the internet and all of that. And so coming back, I had to negotiate my relationships with my family and saying, this is who I am. This is the Calvin Gipson you don't know.
Yeah,
The
sure.
Calvin Gipson that left in my 20s, but they didn't know the Calvin Gipson that returned in my 40s.
Yeah, wow, that's
And
really
I'm
interesting.
going to put my sister on the spot because I outed myself to her daughter, and she was a teenager at the time, and me and my sister had a knockout, drag out fight
Boy,
about who I was and how much I should be sharing and do I have the right to who do I share what to who, and these are her children. And we were
sure.
at my dad's house, and we had our big argument, which was fine. She said what she needed to say, I said what I needed to say, and it was fine. But when we opened the door, the whole family was outside of the room.
That's amazing.
It's one way to come out.
You had an audience, unbeknownst to you.
But
Right.
At least you didn't have to
Coming back to
rehash the
Denver-
conversation again.
coming back to Denver made me realize that you don't come out of the closet just once. We
That's so
continue
true.
to come out of the closet over and over and over again.
Yep.
A conversation that me and my sister had was that I'm queer, but I'm still Calvin. I'm still the person you knew when I was growing up. I'm still the one that was a part of the forced busing and the integration of Denver's public schools. I'm Black first.
Yeah.
People get these stereotypes about now that you're queer, are you going to start wearing miniskirts and makeup and all of that? And
Right.
my sister's daughter even said to me once, Calvin, you don't act gay.
Isn't that interesting? Right.
People have the stereotypes of
Yes.
and I told her it's because I'm Black first. I do not consider myself a rainbow queer. Now, I've worn the rainbow flag and I did produce a gay pride parade, so I've been a part of all of that. But in my soul, I do not consider myself a rainbow queer. I consider myself a Black man living in America. And being queer is also part of my identity, but I'm Black first. And that helped me with my family. My family's like, okay, we get that. You're still the same person.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on with life. And I'm
Yeah.
now one of the lucky ones because I have an amazing, very, very supportive relationship with my family here.
That is amazing.
Yes.
That's a gem.
It is. And again, I think you just highlighted that identity is so personal. It's so personal, and there are many layers to it. And, even within our own community, we stereotype and we have ideas of what a specific identity means. And so I'm grateful that you have now shared this on two different fronts, that it's personal and we can't make assumptions.
And it's to the point where my sister accepts me. Of course, we're on social media now. And because I do a lot of public speaking and a lot of public events, I will wear a skirt. So every time my sister sees me wearing a floor-length skirt, her answer is always the same, Lord. But she accepts me.
Is she older than you or younger?
Oh, she's younger. She's 6 years younger. I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay.
So, living through all that you lived through from your early childhood years, and I'm fascinated with so many things, and then all the transformative times through the civil rights and LGBT history that you've lived through and been a part of. When you reflect back to your younger self, what did you imagine back then what aging would look like?
I am a 34-year survivor of HIV.
Okay.
I contracted HIV in San Francisco because I was living in San Francisco during the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
So I lived through the entire AIDS epidemic. I don't know if you know much about T cells, but the T cells are the indicator of how strong your immune system is. And when your T cells fall below 200, then that is the diagnosis of AIDS. My T cells fell as low as 22. When I was elected president of the San Francisco Pride Parade, I only had 20.
Wow.
And
That's like
I was
zero
supposed to die
immunity.
1 year later. The thing is, I never got sick.
Hmm.
I never got sick. I've never led my life. I've always led my life leading being Black. I've never led my life leading being queer or being HIV positive. As a matter of fact, I told my cousin Donna 25 years ago, over 25 years ago, that I had HIV. And so somebody in my family would know what was going on when I died. And do you know that my cousin kept that secret for 25 years?
Wow.
Did
Wow.
not tell a single soul.
Wow.
He's the
And
right
I
person
did
to
not
share
come
that with.
out as having HIV until I moved back to Denver. That's because people wanted me to the reality of it is I'm 64. So I'm old enough to have experienced segregation in Oak Grove, Louisiana. I've been in segregated theaters where the black people had to sit in the balcony of the theater. I've walked on the Black side of the street. My family accidentally ate in the wrong half of a segregated restaurant once in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. My dad stopped and asked a Black man, where's a good place to eat? He says, you just pass the place. And we went in, and all of the white people in the restaurant just turned around and stared at us. And we sat down, and the waitress said, you must be from out of town. And my dad said, yeah, we're from Denver, Colorado. And they ended up serving our food burned black. And
my
that's
God.
when my mother realized that we were in the wrong half of a segregated restaurant. So
Oh my
when we
gosh.
stopped to ask the Black guy where was a good place to eat, he didn't tell us to walk through the back door of the segregated restaurant.
He missed a very important piece of information from a safety standpoint. So
yes, and even though I was a kid, all of the details just burned into my brain.
of course.
So to answer your question, what is it like to grow old? I never expected to grow old from a Black male in America point of view. You always realize that life can be cut short at any point of time. And then the gay side of me ended up with HIV. So I didn't prepare to grow old. I didn't prepare at all. I don't have a savings. So if there's any wealthy man out there that would like to marry, I have some proposals from women, but I don't have any proposals from men.
I feel like we now need to redo a further social media reach into new platforms.
Yes.
So I'm not prepared to live in the old age, but one thing about Black culture is that we embrace growing old. I am the patriarch of the Gipson family now, and I tease my family saying, what are the benefits of being the patriarch? Do I get to wear clothes? Do I get to tell young people what to do? Which is very different than gay male culture, where gay men have a really hard time growing old. And so that's when I love being a Black man, because I'm like, okay, now here's a new journey that I can go down.
Yeah.
And that is helping gay men become community elders and saying that it's okay to become a community elder and it's okay to grow old. And we have our stories to tell. We have nothing to prove. And our role, and that we have a role in this community to provide spiritual and emotional support to the community. That's how I became Father Fuck It,
Yes.
Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I am the first father of the Golden Nugget Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And I think that's how I met you guys, because you
Yes.
me give a blessing at the
Diva
Award.
Yes.
And that is one of the roles that I decided to play in the community, to say that, yes, I'm a father of the community. You know the history of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence?
I do, because you and I chatted about it, but I'm not. I don't think Wendy has had that opportunity to hear it.
They are an order of queer nuns. And because so many of us have had issues with the church, there is we play a role in the community as spiritual guides. So we go into bars and we go to public places and we pre-forgive people of their sins.
Nice.
And then tell them to go and sin some more.
Let me
And
tell you
we offer blessings, and they were the very first organization to respond to the AIDS crisis in the early 80s, before AIDS even had a name.
Wow.
The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence created the very first safe sex kits.
Wow.
Wow, that's cool.
Well, and the fact that you pray and do and let people, forgive them for sins they're going to commit makes you perfect for a Dear Marcia show for their band, right?
Oh,
Maybe especially for our singer.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
yeah.
There's a lot of forgiveness up front.
Exactly.
Well, we might have
Yes.
to do some glitter blessings as well.
Yes. Even better.
Do glitter
Even better.
blessings. And I didn't realize how impactful it was until I go out as Father Fuck It. And I always have somebody that breaks down. And it's like, I just need to tell you what I've been going through. And just like the pilot that listened to me, I listen to them and I reassure them that God loves them.
Yes.
That God has made us this way. And I tell them that Jesus never mentions homosexuality, not one time.
That is correct.
In the New Testament. He never says it at all because it's unimportant to him.
Yeah.
And then I say, you know what? Jesus had long hair. He wore dresses. He hung out with men. He was cool.
I know we could talk to you forever. You would get sick of us. But we want to do like a lightning round with you because, this is all about the Gayborhood, and having one of the things is we always like to have guests on who we would love to have as our neighbor.
You're like, what part of town do you live in? Because I feel like we need a lot more neighbor time with you.
Yeah.
I want to hear so many stories from you.
So a couple of questions. What is always in your refrigerator that you would share with a neighbor?
Water.
So important. Look,
I know that's boring.
No, it's literally the most important thing that people can put in their bodies. And we live in Colorado and it's dry here and it's hot. I love when people are
hydrated. I always
hydrated.
have water. I buy tons and tons of water.
That's great. Okay, if Father Fuck It had a sermon title, what would it be?
You're blessed.
I love that.
Awesome.
Okay. If you could throw together an ideal neighborhood gathering, what would that look like?
It would definitely be a cookout.
Hello.
Where people will, and it will be a Black culture cookout where you bring your food. It has to be good food. So if you can't cook, then don't bring any food.
That's
bring
fair.
the forks, bring the napkins, but it has to
bring something.
food.
Water.
Play the soul music and do the electric slide and the line dancing. And that's what it would look like. A lot of joy, a lot of laughter, a lot of laughter.
Absolutely that. I love that.
Gloria Gaynor or Diana Ross?
Gloria Gaynor.
Okay.
She was the very first concert I ever seen in my life.
She was?
Yes.
That's cool.
Well,
would you mind? I know this is, but 1979, she and the Village People gave a concert here in Denver, and I was in high school. So I told my mother that I had a high school choir concert because I knew she would never come to a high school choir concert.
Probably singing anyway.
And I changed my clothes at a gas station, and I went to Nichols Arena, and the very first concert I saw was Gloria Gaynor and the Village People.
Oh,
that had to be amazing.
It was amazing. That was my first exposure to gay people and to leather and that side of the gay male community. So it did make me wonder, is this what I'm going to grow up to be? Am I going to grow up and start wearing chaps and harnesses and leather?
I love that. I love it.
That's awesome.
Okay, and the final question, because obviously the podcast is Aging with Pride. What does that mean to you?
I think what it means to me is live your life with joy. And growing old is just an amazing thing because we've had so many different experiences, the different places that I've traveled, the different people that I've met, the different opportunities that just sort of fell into my lap. And I just feel really, really blessed that I've had this amazing, amazing journey that feels like it's almost unbelievable the way that my life has gone. And so for me, it's very important for me to live my life with joy, and that it's not over with. So I decided to get myself a part-time job with the Denver Broncos in their guest relations department. And
Perfect.
guess what? I ended up winning Rookie of the Year.
That's cool.
And I'm
That's awesome.
64 years old.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
I live my life expecting great things to happen to me. So when Debbie approached me and asked if I wanted to come onto this podcast, in my mind is like, yes, I expect those types of things to happen, even though she doesn't have a clue who I am.
I knew a little bit, but I'm so grateful to know so much more about you. I know I speak for Wendy and myself. It's been such a joy to talk to you. And like I said, we could spend hours. You'd be like, you know what, ladies, it's time. So
Well, we will do it. We will do it.
we would love that. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy and you're just amazing. So if people wanted to find you to talk to you, I don't know, you're out in community a lot, but yeah, people find you on social media. Do you officiate weddings? Do you?
I do officiate weddings,
Okay.
and I just officiated one recently. With what I like to tell same-sex couples is a lot of times they want to just go to the courthouse and just do the paperwork, and I encourage them to have a ceremony, even if it's just a very small ceremony in their backyard, and just have that emotional connection and make it meaningful. So I just married a friend of mine, 8 people in the backyard, and it was
Oh,
one of the most emotional experiences that I've ever had.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Well, we just got engaged and we are going to the courthouse next week just because we want that legal protection, but
Yes.
we are planning a celebration.
Have a ceremony and a
Yes.
celebration. Yes, it's very important.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Who decides on the haircut?
I know.
Who decides that the hair is going to go this way and that way?
It's so funny because people often think that when we got together, we've been together almost 3 years, that then our hair started to look alike because, right, people say, oh, you start to look like your dog or you start to look like each other. But our hair looked like this when we met, which is fascinating. I know. It's very interesting.
Great thing.
Well, you're beautiful. And the energy between the two of you is very lovely.
Well, thank you.
It's
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Aging with Pride. Whether you are in your 40s or your 80s and beyond, we are here for every glorious chapter. Please find us on social media, YouTube, and wherever you stream your favorite podcasts at Aging with Pride Podcast as we keep the community conversation going. And remember, getting older isn't about fading away. It's about aging forward with pride. See you on the next episode.